Hey guys, it's Maymay, and today we're making an ornament mini album using these pieces of wood. But first, let me tell you, today is my last collab video for this week. This was my week of collaborations, and today I'm doing a collab with Taylor from Tays Life Unscripted. I'll link her below. So this idea came about when Taylor was telling me about an idea she had for some of her beauty product packaging to make a craft project with, and I was like, that's super cool. Let's do a collab so my subscribers can check out what you're doing too, because I think it might make cool gifts for you guys if you have any makeup lovers in your life, and it could just spark some creativity for another project. But for our project, we're going to make a mini album, an ornament shaped mini album for the tree. All you're going to need to get started are a couple of these pieces of wood or anything you have in your stash that are circular. You could use mat board or chipboard here. I just bought these and have been wanting to use them. I've got a stack of them and I thought we're going to try it. So these are 6.5 inches around, and we will turn these into a mini album, but they're not what we're going to do first. First, we're going to make the pages for the mini album, and I'm going to show you how I did that step by step. All right, I'm going to need some 12 by 12 cardstock. I'm using black because that's what I want on the inside for my pages. And this circle is a 5.5 inch circle I printed off of my printer, or on my printer. 5.5 inch circle, okay? If you have a Cricut or an electronic cutting machine, just cut a 5.5 inch circle. That's all you need. Plus, as I get going, if you have an electronic machine, you can create this and your machine can cut it. But I want to show you in case you don't have an electronic machine. So I'm going to take this circle and I'm going to trace it on this piece of paper one time to start with. So I'm just going to, and I'm coming to the bottom corner. And the reason I'm using the 12 by 12 paper is because I can get two of what I'm going to show you. Because see, I can get one set here and one set here. So you can get 4 pages out of this. Okay, I'll show you what I mean by that too. All right, so I've traced that circle one time. Now what I did was I took my ruler and I measured in 1/4 of an inch from the side of this circle and then made a mark straight down. So I went in 1/4 of an inch. Now where my pencil mark overlap here, I'm going to line it up with my circle. Now here's where I need to show you this, okay? I'm going to line these two marks up with that circle, that straight line, and I'm going to make sure the bottom is at the bottom of my page because that's how I lined up my first circle. Okay, now I'm just going to trace this guy and you'll see what happens. By lining it up the way I did, we're going to overlap, causing us to have kind of like a figure 8 when we're done. Okay, and here's the next thing I do. Now that you've got those two traced, I folded my 12 by 12 in half to save myself a step and to get multiple pages in one cut pass. Okay, so now take your scissors, whichever ones you want to use, and cut this figure 8 out. Now you can be precise, you can take your time, you can do all that good stuff here, which I did on all of my other pages. I will probably go faster now. But here's what I want to tell you while I'm cutting this. If you have an electronic cutting machine, you can size a circle to 5.5. You can overlap them by 1/4 of an inch, and then you can group them together. And once you do that, you've basically created the page you're looking for. Then just copy it and paste it onto 12 by 12 mat, and then cut it out, and you're going to get 4 pages from that one 12 by 12 sheet of paper. I hope that makes sense. So I'm just taking my time cutting this out. This is something you might want to do ahead of time. I already did a bunch of these so we could get going and you wouldn't have to wait on me to cut paper. Of course, with the magic of editing, you don't have to wait anyway. Alright, so we're almost done, and this one's really sloppy. Talking and cutting and going kind of fast. Okay. Alright, so you don't have a whole lot of scrap from that 12 by 12 paper, just that. And now you'll see we get 2 of these figure 8 shapes. Alright, now what you're going to do is just fold these in half, just like this on that piece that overlapped. Okay, so fold this in half again. And now when you do this, if you see any really bad spots, like I've got a really bad point, that's got to go. Just trim it off. It's not a huge deal. And look, don't stress about it. It's going to be so cute. Nobody's going to notice that stuff anyway. All right, so you can see we've got this little part of our book and this little part of our book. Now, even though we got 4 pages here, the way we're going to connect these together to go in the book is you're actually going to end up with 3 pages because we're going to glue these pages together. So that's what we're working with. Now let me show you what I did. I cut all of these. So it's a lot. Let me count them real quick. So I cut 12 of these little figure 8 pages to go inside. Now before we get started, I want to give you the idea behind this. You're going to have a back part of your mini album, your pages, and then the front part, and this will open, but it'll look like an ornament when we finish, so it'll go on the tree so you can have it every year. We're going to glue these together. I think this is what they call making the signature. I'm not really sure. This actual circle might be a signature because it's the pages we're gluing together. But I'm just going to run some glue just like that in the circle, and then I'm going to line up the flat part where I folded it together. So that is going to be like the spine of our book, is the flat part of those circles. So just line those up, stacking them on top of each other, and seal that down. So just like I showed you earlier, now you have 1, 2, 3 pages, and I'm going to do that with all of these guys. Just gluing them together. Just like this. And I'm doing this because I'm not adding pockets. I don't want a whole lot of anything in this inside of this album except pictures. So I'm leaving just flat spaces. The reason for that is I want this to be an ornament on the tree, so I need it to be kind of flat when it's closed, but I can put all the embellishments I want to on the outside of the album. So this is my last page to attach. This is super easy. I just slid it. Okay, super easy to do. So now we have this book with all these circular pages. See all that? Works out perfect. Okay, so these guys are going to go between our 2 pieces of board. But before I do that, I want to decorate these pieces, and I also want to make sure I have a closure here. So I'm going to see if I can peel these off easy. If I can, I'll peel them. If I can't, nope, they come off pretty easy. That's good. Don't say if I can't, we would just leave them because we're going to cover them up anyway. This is the paper pad I decided to use. I decided what I would do is just pick a pad from my stash and then just use those papers and not really, worry too much about what exactly I'm doing as far as papers are concerned and having to mix up a whole bunch. So I'm going to go through here and just find some good neutral pages for the inside covers. And let's see what we've got. These stripes would be cute for the inside. I think I'm going to use these 2 striped pages. Now you are going to have to use 2 pages to do this, and the reason is because your ornaments or your wood pieces are 6.5 inches, so we're not going to be able to get 2 out of 1 page. So here's how I'm going to do this. Super easy. I'm going to decide what portion I want. I'm going to use the bottom section, and I'm just going to glue this guy down here. That's all I'm going to do. So some glue on here. You could Mod Podge if you'd rather. You could use a medium of some sort that would that you normally do decoupage with. But I'm just going to do this, dude. I'm just going to art glitter glue it in place. So this will be the back inside is what we're doing here. This will be the back inside cover. Okay? So I'm going to let that sit for a second while I do the other one. These would make super cool gifts. I think if you're like my family, we have this little tradition in my family where we get pajamas on Christmas Eve and everybody gets in one big picture and we take a picture together in our PJs. Wouldn't this be cute just to be specifically for that picture every year? I think that's what I'm going to use it for. Okay, so now it's time to cut this circle out. You will be cutting out a good bit of circles on this project, but still super fun. And if you have anybody in your family that likes to cut, put them to work. My mom likes to cut with scissors and she likes to color. So anytime I have projects that use that kind of thing, I always know I can call on her and say, hey, will you cut out a whole bunch of stuff for me? She said she can sit in front of the TV and do it, and it's very relaxing. So this is the inside cover done. So this is where our pages will glue down. So won't that be cute to be sticking around the edges? We're not going to glue them yet because we still got some more work to do. I want to go ahead and cover the fronts too while I have them in this easy position to work with them. So go ahead and pick out your front paper and let's do that. So now that I have these guys covered front and back, this is the inside, remember, this is what I chose for the front. The reason I did is I like colors that pop on my tree, plus this is so neutral, anything I put on it will work. Alright, the next thing I want to do is I want to go around the edge and I want to sand down where the paper meets that wooden edge. I do this with chipboard too. The reason is it makes that paper just sort of meld into the project. It's too loud. And I think it works great. I don't want to keep doing that while you're watching. That's all I do is I slide this and clean that paper up kind of at an angle. So I'm going to do that off camera because it's loud and messy, and we'll be right back together. Okay, so I sanded the edges, and I know it may seem like a step you don't have to do, and you really don't have to, but it makes such a difference on the paper. You don't have those loose edges. You have a nice smooth edge. Now I want to ink the edges. Now this is totally optional. Not everybody's going to want to do this, but I think it will make it look kind of nice and vintage. So I'm going to get, this is Vintage Photo. It's my favorite distress ink is the Vintage Photo. I use it all the time. And especially for this application, I like to use it for these edges to make them look kind of worn and dingy and vintagey. This is super easy to do. We're doing two things here too. We're also cleaning up that edge, so we're not going to see a raw wood edge where we did all the sanding. And I just love how this looks. I love the vintage. See how much more vintage this piece looks than this one now? All right, so I'm going to do that over here too. I'm going to do the back as well. I want to make sure I get it done too. Hey, while I'm doing this, I get so many questions about this blending tool. This is from Tupelo Designs LLC. Mike, the owner there, he creates them, so head over and check him out. TupeloDesignsLLC.com is their website. That's where these come from. Notice here that I kind of sanded the paper a little too deep. I don't care. It works out perfect for me because I like that kind of damaged look. All right, so there's the fronts, and now let's ink the back. Now let's talk about the book's closure. I want to have a bow that ties it shut. Now my thought process at first was to put it on the side, but now that I've thought about it, I think I want my bow to be at the top because that'll be a perfect place for an ornament to have a bow, right? So here's how we're going to do that. I have left my ribbon on the spool so that way I won't use more than I have to. And I want to encourage you to use a ribbon that's the same on both sides for this because it makes tying it so much easier. And that way if someone who doesn't know how to tie a bow is looking at your album, they can just tie it without having to worry about the back part, you know, showing differently. All right, because I'm going to tie this at the top, then my book is going to open from the top. Instead of opening like a book, it's going to open from the top. So I want to make sure my page binding is at the bottom. All right, so I'm just going to kind of dry fit this to see how this works. First, let's put this ribbon on, leaving myself plenty to tie a bow with. All right, so now that I've kind of dry fit that into place, I'm going to take a glue dot and I'm going to glue dot this into place. I'm just holding it and I'm going to run one of these, or a couple of those glue dots right there where that's going to go, and just kind of rub that ribbon into it there, and then lift it up and run some down here. This is a glue dot runner that I found at Walmart and I love it. I found it in the hardware section. All right, so I've got those glue dots there, and now I want to see how far down my ribbon will go. So I'm just going to kind of just eyeball center this piece. Isn't that cool? And then this piece is going to wrap back up, and it's actually going to wrap at our spine toward the bottom. So now I know everything's where it needs to be. Now, flipping this guy back over, I'm going to add some glue to the back of him to glue the whole book into place. All right, crafters, do you see this big mess I have going here? Let me tell you what happened. I did all this work and I glued this into place and I filmed it, and then I realized a big mistake on my part. So I've got to show you that mistake. So what I have done is I want my ribbon facing upward. Okay, I showed you that. All right. Then my poor book has been glued and ripped and torn because I totally messed it up. Here's what I discovered. You have to glue the book binding edge to the bottom of the ornament or it won't open. So learn from my mistake. So what I'm going to do is take this circular piece. I'm going to add some more glue to it this time. I wish it would have worked because it was so cute. It was just so clean and so neat. But we'll be back to it. This is what happens. Sometimes when you're learning, you make mistakes and you got to fix them, and it's no big deal. And so we will get back to pretty in just a few minutes. It'll be looking neat and clean one more time. All right, so I've got this book binding to the edge. Don't worry about this. We'll cover this up with something. There's always a way to do that. You can also recover them if you want to. I'm just not going to take the time to do that. Now I'm going to pull this ribbon up one more time, just like so, and stick it down to those glue dots underneath. And then I'm going to glue this again. You guys tell me you want to see my mistake, so I thought, you know what? I'm going to teach you this as I'm going, because people make mistakes. We are not perfect. Okay, so got it all lined up, and make sure I have the edge of that book binding at the end of the ornament. Let me show you what I mean. The edges of our book is at the end. It has to be, because the way I had it before, the two pieces of wood would hit each other and the album wouldn't open. So let's look at it now. Let me let it dry for a few minutes and then we'll open it. Okay, so this is the album to this point, and now let me show you. See, now it will open. But when I did it before, the wood hit in the back and wouldn't open, so these pieces were hitting. I want to show you something else I did. Can you see how white this is? I took my glue and I coated those hinges with my glue. I literally just coated and coated, and so it's been sitting about 4 hours now and it's almost completely dry, but I did that because I felt like they were a little weak. So when you do this, you might want to reinforce them with maybe some washi tape or something like that before you put them together, or do this, just take your glue, because you know the glue is very malleable, so it will bend and it won't be a problem. But it does have to dry, and it's going to stay white probably for a while, but it will eventually dry. So just to show you that. Okay, now then, I keep forgetting this album's going to open like this, and I've moved the ribbon that way. The next thing I did was I went to my Cricut. Now you don't have to use your Cricut for this, you can use whatever you like, but I cut these 4.5-inch scallop circles out because I thought they'd be cute on the inside on the pages, and then whenever I put pictures I can just do a circle picture right in there, and I think that'll be super cute. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through and glue all of these guys down, making sure that my pattern is facing up to my bow, okay, because the bow's at the top. So this is super easy. So we're just going to pick that up and just add some glue. And come right to it. I just think these are super cute. It'll also give each page a little stability, and that'll be good. Let's do this one. And I'm just going to go through and alternate these little pattern papers, which all came from that same paper pack, and glue these scallop circles down. Now, you don't have to use your Cricut. You could do the same thing we did to get this circle and just cut a template out and just use that and do a regular circle instead of a scallop circle. I just thought it'd be neat to have the scallop circle, and while I was waiting on that glue to kind of set up on the binding, I thought, you know what, I'm going to cut some scallop circles. Okay, so I have gone through and put all of the matte pages in so you can see. Aren't they super cute? Isn't this going to be perfect for pictures, like pajama pictures? Because that's what I'm putting in here. Every Christmas Eve, our pajama pictures, and every one of these will be a different year. I think that's going to be so fun to do. Now, because we had to move this guy down into the to the pieces that, you know, I learned my lesson, my ribbon is not at the top anymore, and I really need it to be at the top. So I'm going to do a couple things. One, I'm going to put a glue dot down because they're really strong, and I know that they will help hold the glue in place. And I'm going to add some wet glue. And that way the glue dot will hold it while it dries. And I'm just gluing this down so that when I get ready to tie it, my ribbon will be at the end and my bow will stay where it needs to stay. I did a test run and it sinks down in there, and so I just want to make sure we have it where it needs to be. Can you tell I'm kind of doing this project on the fly because I haven't done it? It was just in my brain and I wanted to do it. So I just wanted to try it out with you guys. Alright, so now I'm going to stick this guy into the glue. And I'm going to put it aside and let it dry. While that's drying, it's just a little bit tacky now, but while it's drying, I'm going to show you the next thing I'm going to do. I had this tag that I picked up at Michael's last year, and it says to and from engraved in it. You can see it's just a little tag. They were, I think they were like 10 or 15 cents a piece after Christmas, and so I grabbed all of them that they had. So I painted one black with the chalkboard paint, and so I wanted to get that matte finish. This is actually chalkboard, not chalk paint, but I'm not using it for that. I'm really using it for that hole that's going to be the hanger, and also to glue onto the back to look like the top of our ornament. Let me show you what I mean. So I put the tag behind it. I put some white paper so you could see it because it totally blended in with the matte. But I'm going to glue this, hot glue this onto the back, and this will be what holds my ornament onto the tree and also gives it the top to look like the ornament. I think that's super cool. Now you could do this, look, if you wanted a bigger top, you could turn it sideways and get a really big ornament top. Of course, that's not centered. Let's do it like that. So you could get a really big top, but I like it like this, and I get the ornament, the hole for it too. So I'm going to hot glue that into place. So I'm going to go ahead and put the hot glue onto it. And I'm going to use a lot of hot glue because I want this to stay where it needs to be and hold this for a long time. So a good bit of hot glue. Just like that. And then I'm going to center that ribbon with that hole. With the hole in the tag. And press that into place. I love how that looks like the top of the ornament. Isn't that cool? And that will hold it into place whenever we put it on the tree. So now we need to talk about the front of this guy. And that's where you have a blank canvas and you can do anything here. So let's get started. So in my paper pad are these pieces of paper that have these candies around the edge. And I decided I wanted to do a rosette to go on the front. I've seen these a lot in vintage style ornaments, and I think this will be cute. So here's how we're going to make it. Our rosette's probably going to be a little bit bigger because I want it to cover a lot of the front. So I'm going to score this piece of paper every 1/2 inch. And just so you know, this is 3 inches wide because I want to be a big rosette, and it is 11 inches long. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to use my score tool, and every 1/2 inch I'm going to do a line. And this is what will build our rosette for us. Now, I don't think I've ever done a rosette on camera with you guys, so this will be the first time to do that. But basically, these score marks we're going to fold in a mountain and valley fold situation. And it'll be super easy, and I'll show you how to do it as we get going. Now what we're going to do here is just go through and just accordion fold on those score lines. So you see how I'm just going up and down with those score lines. And this makes the mountain and valley. So basically your accordion, I never can say accordioning, but you're making accordion folds. So once I get this all together, I will show you what we just did. See that? So we did that. All right, I'm going to do that with all the pieces. You see how fast you can do these, especially the big ones. Now the smaller ones take a little more dexterity, a little more work, but these big ones like this, you can get done really quick. I just have seen a lot of people use this rosette behind like a paper element, and I think it's going to be cute. I have something in mind for that too. All right, and then squish. Now I made 3 because I wanted to make sure I had enough to do my rosette, and I might need 4, and I have the paper for it if I do. So if we do, we'll add it. All right, so the first thing I want to do is glue these guys together, and I want to make sure my peppermints are all on the outside, okay? So that way when I do the rosette, they'll show really well. So glue them together where all your peppermints show. Now I'm using hot glue for this, but you do not have to. You could certainly use a tape or just a wet glue and let it dry, but I have my glue gun out, so I thought I'd just use it. So there is that, and then we're going to glue the other one on. So we're basically just making a big long chain of accordioned paper. I think it'll be cute. Now before I seal this shut, I want to do a test and see if I need that 4th piece of paper. So I'm just going to kind of squish this together and see what we get. I think that's going to be perfect. I don't think we need another piece at all. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these ends together. Just like this. Just bring this to it. Get that sealed nice and tight. All right, so now we have this, okay? The next thing I'm going to do is use a scallop circle and some paper. You can use just some scratch paper, whatever you got. So I have this circle, and I'm going to sit my accordion piece down with the peppermint on the bottom, okay? And then I'm going to bring this together and flatten it. It's kind of in one motion. You see that? That's how that's going to go. So I'm going to go ahead before I do anything. Let me turn this back out. It's going to be quick, okay? So I'm going to put the glue onto my piece here because this is going to go fast. So I wanted you guys to see that. So that was kind of like a preview of what's fixing to happen. Sit this on top, bring this together, and push it down on top of your hot glue. And then it'll kind of sit in there. See, I'm not even trying to help it too much now. It'll just kind of sit in your hot glue and let that catch. Isn't that pretty? I think it's very pretty. And I was off center, but it's not going to matter. You're not going to see it. But that's just enough to catch it. That's all we wanted to do. Now what I think I'll do is go inside of here and put some hot glue in to hold that middle piece together. Just like that. Probably not needed, but I think I'm going to do it just to be safe. Now I'm going to bring our album back over. Our ornament album. And this is going to go on the front. Look at that. Isn't that going to be cute on the front? I think that's beautiful. I love it. And it's got that dark showing on the outside. I love it. So we're going to glue this guy down. center it on the top. So pretty, so vintage. Now that I've got it in place, I'm going to take some ink. This is much easier than trying to ink every one of these edges while you have it in your hand. I'm going to take some ink and I'm just going to brush it across the top to knock back the brand new on here. Trust me, this is a lot easier than trying to do every single fold as you go along. So remember I told you that I've seen people use those rosettes with paper words on top of it? We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to come in and just kind of do a loose cut around this sentiment that says Merry Christmas. Just really loose. Kind of like a bubble. The only thing I don't want to do is get any points. I want this to be a smooth, round cut. So I'm just moving my scissors. Instead of chopping at it, I'm trying to cut nice, long, smooth cuts instead of little choppy cuts. Because that's when you get the little points. And when you get to where you need to make a curve, move the paper in your scissors to make that curve. Perfect. That's what I was looking for. Now you guys also know I don't like loose glitter, so look at this glitter paper. Isn't this awesome? It's actually glitter cardstock. I'm going to put this on top of that, and then I'm going to trim out around it with a wide border. And I'm doing this with the hot glue for a couple reasons. One, because I'm using it, I've got it here. And two, because this glitter can be kind of loose, and I think that will really help it stick to that glitter using the hot glue. Alright, so now that I've got that stuck down, I'm going to take these scissors and I'm going to go kind of wide, probably almost ½ an inch around it because I want that glitter to really show. And I'm just mimicking that shape that we did earlier. So check that out. We just kind of made a little embellishment for the front of our album. So let's bring it back over. And this is going to go right here on top. Isn't that cute as it can be? I just love it. So this piece we're hot gluing to the front of the album on an angle. I'm going to hold it there and let that catch. Now my ribbon has dried well enough for me to tie it shut now. So I'm just going to go to the top and tie it. Just like this so that this bow sticks out at the top. I'm in love with this album, y'all. Now here's where you'll decide how much ribbon to leave. And I'm going to leave, like I said, extra so that if people have to tie it and they're not comfortable tying bows, they won't feel uncomfortable doing it. Now the other thing you're going to do is probably fray check those ribbons because this is going to get used a good bit. So you'll want to put something there to secure those. You can use fray check. I've also done it with just clear glue. Glue that dries clear would be fine too to just run along that edge. I'll probably fray check that later. I'm out of it right now, so I'll pick some up. But look at that, guys. It's a simple, quick, super cute mini album that you can hang on your tree with this little hook. How cute is that? I love it. Now, you can embellish it so many more ways. You can add anything you want. I just think this is perfect for my Christmas tree and it will really pop. So I untied it because I want us to look at it. So this is our mini album. And look how cute all these little pages are in here to put pictures. And it just looks like an ornament. I think it is adorable. And you'll just hang this with a regular old hook on your tree. That's how I'm going to hang it. So while we're talking, I'll tie this back. I just wanted to open it again. Won't this be super fun? What a great gift for maybe someone who's got a new baby and they want to collect pictures every year of their new baby. You could make them this ornament for their tree. Maybe for a teacher, they could do a picture of their class every year in their little ornament mini album. Oh my goodness, the possibilities are endless. I hope you guys enjoyed this little album ornament. I think it